You're listening to the Act As If podcast with Coach Roel. Real life success stories in business and investing as they happen. And now, here's your host, Coach Roel.
Alrighty, welcome back, folks. Coach Roel here once again with part 2 of my interview with Alim. And as you guys are listening or watching this, it may be a week or so afterwards. But interesting thing about this format that I've set up is it's only been a few minutes since we recorded the first part of our interview with Alim. How are you since a few minutes ago?
I'm still in a really, positive mindset, so I'm ready to go.
Awesome. So you just played the Act As If game, as I like to affectionately call it. And so what are your thoughts? And part of what I want to cover off here, as I mentioned too, is create a distinction as to what are some of the things that you spoke about in the first part of our interview that actually aren't manifested yet, but you're working towards it. And how does this whole weird exercise that I've kind of put you through, how did it land with you? What are your thoughts? So anywhere you want to start.
For sure. No, I think, I find it, the Act As If method, I'm already starting to see the benefits of it. And maybe it's just it's a matter of just going through the full journey. But when I talked about becoming the best version of myself, the fact that I've actually written it down. I've written down the I am statements they're going to help me contribute towards that. I'm almost putting it out there in the universe that's
Yes.
I'm already there, right? And by just doing that, I'm fully confident that somehow it's already happened or it's going to happen, right? So in terms of some of the things that have not happened yet that we spoke about, I might not, I'm not consistently there yet as far as starting out my day, but with meditation every single day. I'm not there yet, but I know that's the end goal.
Yes.
I'm not constantly out there being able to exercise yet, but I know that is the end goal, right? But the fact that I'm speaking about it, and the way I would almost see it is the fact that I've stated it, written it down, and I've actually shared it. I now have to hold myself accountable to those things, and so it will only get one step closer to that particular goal. Whether it's getting to becoming the best version of myself, or even talking about becoming a full-time realtor. The fact that I've actually put it out there.
Sorry, realtor or entrepreneur? Are you an investor or your agent?
I'm definitely a real estate entrepreneur, I would say. And the way I see it is, yes, I would be, doing investments, initially in diversifying my portfolio. Some of the things I shared with you was, having an Airbnb, having a student rental, having a multifamily, having a diversified portfolio. But that's just one aspect of what I see becoming a real estate entrepreneur. There are many other, ideas that I have that I want to be able to execute on as well.
Mm-hmm. So I'll recap just in case some viewers or listeners didn't catch or remember the first part. You mentioned having an Airbnb in Florida, having a student rental in Calgary, and also another primary residence. Did you have another multifamily in Calgary?
That is
as
correct.
well?
Yes. That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So is that a reality right now as we're talking right now, or was that aspirational, or which aspects?
The personal property, I have already acquired that property. The multifamily almost became a reality, but I actually backed out of it at the last minute. Due to once we did the inspection, it just didn't make any sense for me to move forward with that. So it's very close to becoming a reality. The Airbnb, is something that I think last time when we spoke, it's already on my calendar. As I'm anticipating visiting yourself, in Florida in October. I've already started talking to a realtor who works out of Florida. started looking at properties and things like that. So it's close to becoming a reality. It's not there yet, but definitely.
So those are the wheels that are in motion.
Yes, for sure.
Right.
And also in terms of financing, I think the last time when we spoke, I closed on my primary here in Mississauga. So I finally successfully closed last Friday. So
yes.
from a financing,
congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. It was a bit of a touch and go there with the markets having changed, but we did successfully close, and we had sold when the markets were pretty high up there as well. So from a financing standpoint, all the funds are now actually there for me to execute on. So I'm ready. I'm ready to go, basically. So yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So when we kind of prepped for this 2-part interview recording, we just spoke. I think it was last week, like exactly about 7 days ago or so. I'm curious to find out what your experience was like. If you felt like it was, if there was doubt, if you felt awkward, like this kind of hokey, or were you like 100% into it from the beginning? Some of the things that I had suggested that you could do to prepare for today. What was that experience like? Was it easy? Was it challenging? Did you feel like it was weird? Were you all in? Catch me up on the last 7 days.
For sure. I think the insights that I was able to gain from the last session was, even though we were, making high level, IM statements, I think it was the key point was you had to have, the steps you're going to take to get there. And, even though I didn't get to it on day 1, day 2, after we had spoken, in the back of my mind, I was continuously replaying that to say, okay, that's the insight I gained. What are those steps that are going to get me to where I want to get to, right? So, I finally found an hour or two to actually put it down on paper, where I was able to tie back to what are those goals that I need to achieve to successfully say that I am becoming the best version of myself, that I am a full-time, a real estate entrepreneur. And so the fact that we had gained those insights a week ago, like I said, even though I didn't get to putting that down on paper right away, throughout those 7 days, it was constantly playing through my mind. So I would say from that perspective, it was really helpful. The other insights I think you shared with me was some of the best practices that have worked for you. So whether it was, having, listening to, aspirational, self-talk, doing, things like that, and listening to, podcasts or motivational speeches and things like that. So I think what I'd shared with you is that I already do that. So I started tweaking, what the content that I was listening to. So I was able to, download a couple of podcasts that actually catered towards that. So the fact that you had a week ago planted those seeds, those have already started, germinating and started, having an effect and adding value already. So
what, could you give me an example of one?
Yeah, sure. So one of the podcasts that, I followed this author by the name of Robin Sharma.
Yes.
The monk. Yes. So
yes.
He had a podcast. Currently, it's a bit stale, but it's still applicable. He basically goes into maybe about 10 or 15 minute podcast, and it's all about how to achieve mastery and in achieving success, and he gives tips and things like that. So what I've done now is, as part of my morning routine, is I listen to that first thing just to start off my day. So right off the bat, I'm having the right set of thoughts in my mind when I start my day. So that's one change I've already made. Hopefully working towards what we talked about, which is at one point getting to a day where it's self-talk that's coming from me, and that was something that I'm going to work towards. But at least
So when you say self-talk, I just want to clarify. What do you mean by self-talk?
Talking about positive thoughts about reaffirming that that these are my goals and that I'm achieving these goals. Talking about self-improvement and so whether it's about my goals to achieve for being healthy, constantly getting consistent in my meditation and things like that. Just having those affirmations, being
but using your voice.
Yes,
and using your script.
Yes, Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that is the end goal that I want to get to. But, like I said, the start is, at least I've already, I think last time when we spoke, I said, I'm already doing this. I might not be listening to the right content. So I've already made that switch. Now I'm listening to the right content. The next step is to now, make that content my own. Right. So that's something that, definitely work towards as well.
Yeah. Well, what do you like about that? Because last time we talked, we didn't really, I don't think we did record it, but that's for our private group. That little switch, could you remind me about what was that kind of miniature aha moment when you're saying, I'm already listening to podcasts and other people's content. Now you're curating kind of specifically, but it's still other people's. But then when you pointed out to me last time that, I never really thought about recording my own content so that I'm really hyper specific with my intention. What was that? Could you expand upon that again?
For sure.
Realization?
Yeah, definitely it was an insight because, I've always consumed other people's content and you do benefit from that. You do gain insights from other people's, podcasts and advice and guidance. But the fact that, going through this, exercise, act as if, I think the realization was that it's one thing to listen to somebody else's content. It's another when you're using your own content and you're yet again realigning to those goals by listening to your own words that have actually been, articulated by you. Right. So I think it's one level of at least I think it's even a high level of reinforcement of what you're trying to achieve. And I think, earlier I touched on, the fact that I actually wrote it down, the fact that I shared it. Now I'm actually not only, sharing it with others, but I'm sharing it with myself and using my own words. So that was definitely a realization. And after we had a chat, that could have a much more impactful, effect on achieving that goal. So yeah, I'll definitely say, yeah.
Great. I truly believe that. And I'm glad you articulated that way. If I could reinforce too, it's great. And it's kind of like maybe shooting myself in the foot because I put out content too as a coach and, whatnot. But it's like sun shining on a leaf. I don't know if you've heard this analogy before. It warms up the leaf. But when that content is yours and it's your script and your words, it's like a laser hitting that leaf. It doesn't warm up the whole surface. Like you kind of feel good. You're like, oh, that's nice. The monk who sold his Ferrari or this Coach Roel guy and whatever. You feel kind of good. It's generally, it's good. It's positive, but it's not laser focused to, okay, what is Alim's intention? And only you can define that. And so that's a big difference in what it is that yet another coach guy, whatever, somewhere on the internet is preaching. But I really think that's the next level is don't listen to my content and other people's content for inspiration a little bit to get you started. But when you're totally serious about it, like you're never going to hear on someone else's podcast, you should get a short-term rental in Florida. Or actually, you might hear it on my Snowbird podcast or stuff. But no one's going to say you should have the combination of a Florida short-term rental and a Calgary student rental and a primary rental. Like that's you. That's Alim. That's not something that everybody in general would be able to vibe with.
Yes.
But to laser focus it. And then to be able to do. So what are some of the other things that you did since the last time to laser focus on your intentions?
I think definitely the podcast is one item. And the second, I think as I mentioned, the fact that I took time to, not only sort of play back what we had talked about throughout that week, but, finding some time to actually write it down, to sit down and actually put my thoughts down to say, okay, what are those concrete steps that I need to, that I'll be able to say that I have achieved, the best version of myself, that I have achieved and transitioned successfully. And just being able to think through those, that's something that I've definitely done. Well, one thing I've always been in the habit of doing is, spending some time in isolation. As part of my meditation practice, I'm used to doing that, but at the same time, I'm not afraid to detach from all digital distractions. So, I will take, if I need to, 10, 15, 20 minutes or even half an hour to detach from everything and fully just get into a mindset where I'm just thinking. And in that mindset, I think about these type of things to say, okay, it's almost like your internal, way of brainstorming, right?
Yes.
And coming up with those items to say, okay, what are those goals of going through that? So I would say that's definitely something that I did this week more than I did in the past, where intentionally I was able to, as I was thinking about this, to say, okay,
So give me an example, if you don't mind. Let's pull back the curtain for like a minute. Like, sure. Pretend you're doing that. What are some of the things that you had realized when you said you isolated yourself for about half an hour, you just really think, and then you started actually coming up with steps for just about a minute or so. What are some of those realizations? Just give us a view into that.
Sure. So I think when I talked about becoming the best version of myself, I think the concrete steps is to say, okay, so what does that look like, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea was, okay, I need to truly structure my whole day, to be not the best version of myself for some grand plan where a month from now or 6 months from now or a year from now, how can I be the best version of myself in that particular day? And if I take that approach, I think that was a realization to say that, okay, I need to dissect my day in such a way that I am going to be the best version of myself in that day. And if I can come up with that formula for one day, then I can just replay that formula and build those habits for the next 365 days. So I think that was definitely something that was a realization, was to say, awesome. Okay, I need to craft that day. Yeah.
And I want to make that distinction that as you were saying that, anyone who's watching or listening here is, I don't want to position it like that's what you should do, Mr. or Miss Listener. But what you were just talking about, Alim, is I didn't come up with that. I didn't preach it to you. But what I did encourage you to do is come up with your own answer, right? I think that's a huge mental shift. Our mindset shift is that oftentimes, and I've done this and I still do this every so often, but now that I catch myself, it's like we look outside for ideas, for inspiration, okay, let's see, like you said, let's look for somebody who has already done what I'm trying to do. Use that just as a example or as a potential roadmap to kind of follow. But at the end of the day, you got to figure it out for yourself. Because the only one who has all the cards that should be considered is you for yourself, right? So we have all these people like the Tony Robbins of the world, the Robin Sharmas of the world, etc. They're great for generalities. Again, it's the light warming the leaf, but to laser focus it and actually see physical change quickly, that's got to come from you. Right. I can't do that as a coach. I can't do that as a buddy or whatever. It can only come from the inside. So I'm really glad you made that distinction too. This whole talk of, and I'm going to go off and take a bit of a risk on this one, opening up this topic, is you mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned or if I mentioned something about multiverse and does it already exist and that, like how deep have you thought about this and what are your thoughts around that?
I truly believe that, I think I mentioned that I've always been somebody who has thought about both the spiritual and material aspect of life as human beings. I truly believe that. I think one thing I said was I always try to achieve that balance, right? And so when we talk about a multiverse, from my perspective, the idea is that as soon as you start manifesting even words out of your mouth, you're putting it out in the universe. And somehow, the universe will, magically go and start working on those things for you. So, I don't take it, lightly as far as, people saying, oh, it's just coincidence that this happened. It's not coincidence. It's the fact that you put it out there in the universe to say that I am becoming the best version of myself, that I am becoming a full-time entrepreneur. I am, going to be serving humanity. The minute you state that, I truly believe that somehow you have put those physically, you have put those words out there, and somehow it will come back to you, and somehow the universe will just align itself to make that happen. So and I know some people think that that might be the hokey pokey whatever, but in my my sort of beliefs, I truly believe that there is that multi-universe concept out there, and that if you do want something, you just have to put it out there in the universe.
Okay, so let me play the devil's advocate.
Sure.
What kind of, and I'm referring to, I think, even another conversation we may have had a while ago. What kind of evidence do you have that actually worked in your life?
I would say, when I think in the past when we spoke, I mentioned that I did all the traditional things, right? Getting, going to university, getting your degree, getting your 9-to-5 job, getting married, having a family, having a house, having, two cars, all those things, right? Those are things at some point in my life I had actually manifested up here first. Right.
Yes.
And the fact that it all played out the way it did, I think I only came to a realization, whatever I had envisioned, whether it happened to be 20 years ago, 15 years ago, these are all things that I had manifested before. And they all came true in somehow in different ways. Right. The fact that, just like I mentioned, even though you don't think about those things, but, having graduated from university and then, having met my wife, and then having a family, having a house, having an investment property, having kids, and taking vacations, all those things at some point was those things that
an
were
intention or thought.
Intention. Yeah, those are things that were important to me, and somehow, like I said, they all happened. Right, to the point where I at this point in time I'm level setting to say, okay, what is the next set of things that I want to happen? And I think that's what we're doing right now, to say, okay, I think the realization is that we might have not thought about it 15, 20 years ago, that those are the things that you were manifesting, even though you were. They all became true, right? And so now that the realization is there, why not take advantage of that powerful effect of putting it out there to say, these are the things I want to manifest, right? So that's the evidence, I would say, is that. And
do you think you can even do it faster now?
Yeah. The fact that that this has been a realization, I think you can expedite the timing of it and turn that around quicker. So that will be definitely the next step for sure.
Mm-hmm. So in closing, then the last part I'd asked about you in part one, the advice. I kind of saw an expression on your face flash across your face that you kind of knew where I was getting at. But could you reiterate that advice and to reveal to you and to everybody just overtly is really that question I had prompted to you was intended for you to, sounds like great advice. Now go follow it. You know what I mean? It's not like me saying, now here's what you should do. It's like, no, Alim, what would you say to yourself? How did you feel about that little part? And if you could reiterate that advice as well.
Yeah, no, I think the fact that realization is there, that this can be very powerful and very effective. You almost ask the question. So it's one of those ideas where where you say to yourself, "Why didn't I think of this myself?" Right? And the fact that you have kind of helped us and guide us in that way, that now we are thinking that way. I think it makes you realize that this is something powerful that can be used, and we should be using it. And the fact that, just like you said, everybody's journey and template is going to be different. My template is going to be different from somebody else's. The fact that we just have to proactively do it and get to a point where you do have those goals out there, and you are putting it out in the universe that these are the things that you want, and they can be manifested. So I would say that is the advice. It's just go out there and actually manifest and use the act as if method. So then, you can just like you said, laser focus on imprinting what you're trying to envision. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So this will eventually be out there in the universe, which is another level of putting out the intention, the manifestation, etc. And as a quick an aside too, I created this as ironically kind of as an act as if as well, right? Because to give you not that it's about me, but at one point in time, I was sitting there, let's say, I don't know, staring at the beach or watching Netflix or something and thinking, it would be a cool idea is if I did an act as if podcast format. So even for me, it just started off as it wasn't out there. And then I thought, okay, well, who do I know that might have fun doing this? And let's just play with it. And, it's just little things like that. And this idea came about earlier this year. We're in 2022 as we're recording this, but it's just recognizing that and being like, oh, okay, maybe it's not going to take me 20 years to get that job and that family and whatever anymore, because it was just like, I didn't realize that I was using these steps. But now that you have that realization, it's like, oh gosh, I can really create my story, my reality. And, or another analogy, I could be my own artist. I have a blank canvas. So if I get to choose what the picture looks like, then I'm going to paint it the way I want to. I'll get ideas from these other gurus and coaches and whatever, but I'm going to paint my picture. And I can do it not in 20 years, but let's say in the next 20 months, less, depending on what it is. So I'm very excited that your journey is not ended. Our journey is not, I don't even think there is a destination, but that's maybe a topic for another episode. I do want to thank you so much, Alim. I'm excited that we get to meet in person very soon at the time of this recording. And I'm really looking forward to hearing the updates that of the intentional manifestations that you create along the way. So once again, thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you again. This has been very, enlightening, and I continue to look forward to working with you and meeting you hopefully in person very soon. So thank you.
Oh, not hopefully. That's happening for sure.
Yes.
All right, Alim. Till next time. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
You've been listening to the Act As If podcast with Coach Roel. Real life success stories in business and investing as they happen.